back. You're listening to the Red Book Show on Wexford New People's Movement Radio. Keep your messages coming in to wnpmr.com. Hello to Jimmy K. How are you getting on? Thanks for that message. As I said, we're here in the Bunker Studio in Red Books in the heart of Wexford Town. Steve is beside me. He's after taking some cocaine, but he's okay, he assures me. And Tony's still dying with the leprosy. We're going to do it. We've been reading a very special book over the last week. Normal People by Sally Rooney is one of the defining Irish novels of the last decade. First published in 2018, it became an international bestseller, won the Costa Novel Award, and was longlisted for the Booker Prize, and later became a cult television series. Rooney captured something that a lot of people recognise but struggle to put into words in Ireland. The loneliness, uncertainty, and emotional complexity of growing up here. Love, class, family, friendships, anxiety, sex, Marxism. This is Normal People.
Yeah. Well, Wally, it looks like we made the move from abnormal people last week to normal people this week. I had to get that one in there.
Absolutely, Steve. So the novel follows Marianne and Connell from their Leaving Cert year in Sligo in 2011 to the end of their time at Trinity University in 2015. What did you think, Steve?
Well, this novel is about the life of a relationship. I mean, I looked at the first page, the first paragraph, and I saw Sally Rooney was describing the very beginning of a relationship. And at the very end of the novel, I don't think this is a spoiler, but, she describes the end of the relationship. And the life of the relationship is a life that's between people, not within people. And this is the story of that.
Well, it's interesting that Rooney seems to argue our lives are, and I suppose, built in the spaces between people, and removing these connections makes us less certain of who we are as individuals.
Well, if you remove those connections, people don't have relationships of any kind.
It sums up the current loneliness epidemic, I think,
it really
we're
does.
feeling, and she was well ahead of time, because this novel was written in 2018, and it was written about that post-Great Recession period, but post-COVID, life has become completely different, and loneliness has gone through the roof.
Yeah, I think she anticipated, not like consciously anticipated, but she seemed to sense where things were going. And like we just mentioned, the main characters are Marianne and Connell, and Marianne is the smartest person at her secondary school there near Sligo. She's probably smarter than the teachers, and she got open contempt for her schoolmates. Her dad died at a very tough age, 13. That's about the worst age you could possibly have for something like that. And she's very hard to know. Now, Connell, on the other hand, is very popular at school. People feel like they know him. They think they know him, but maybe they don't know him. And he's leading a double life. He wants the respect of someone like Marianne, but he also wants to be well liked. And so he thinks if he's too open with his relationship, or even tells anybody about the relationship, then he won't be respected. So this is a problem for him, and it's a problem he's got to basically start to grow out of.
Yeah, well, I would argue that Connell is the smartest, or at the very least the only match for Marianne. He hides his intelligence to fit in.
Yeah, he does.
And she does such a good job of capturing, I don't think it's just an Irish thing either, but capturing secondary school, high school, because both of them are so insecure and isolated despite being brilliant.
Secondary school is brutal. I mean, it's a brutal social atmosphere. It's oppressive, and it basically, there's gossip and conformity demands, and there's peer pressure, and people trying to rise above and be popular, and there's little privacy or even individuality in the secondary school. So they both have a very tough time there, because they're not regular, ordinary, average people.
Well, maybe it's because she was so young when she wrote the book that she captured secondary school so well, but she really nailed it.
Oh, she did.
Yeah,
definitely. And we talk about what a relationship is based on, and I'm going to go back to what we talked about before. Back when we were talking about Atomized by Mikhail Welbeck, is that being recognized, recognition, being witnessed by others, being witnessed by another person is so essential. We all need that, and it's kind of rare when we can get that. This is a passage that really struck me. Uh, Rooney wrote about Marianne that Connell was the beginning of her real life. She writes, "If you believe you're fit to be loved, you have a new life," and that was so true, absolutely true.
Absolutely.
Do you think what I was saying like last week about genre classification, sort of joking about the fact that maybe we don't have genre classifications to the extent that we think we do? Do you think this book is a genre? Does it transcend the genre classifications?
Absolutely, and in some ways, it plays with them. It disguises itself as something else to deliver a message. It's not romance. It's certainly not young adult. And it's not literary fiction, but it's being classified as all of those things. It's a hybrid of the very best sort, I think.
Yeah.
I think, Steve.
It's a rare when we find a book that's, first of all, it's a very good book. It's an amazingly profound book, but it's also very popular at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's a rare thing.
It certainly is. No, and I some people. Some people would, I think we're having some technical issues here. Do you want to stop? Welcome back to the Red Book Show. Those of you listening to us live may have realized that we went off the air there. This is live radio.
Yep, but we're back.
We do suspect foul play. Now, it's a harrowing story what happened. An Amazon AI drone flew into the tower here just above Red Book's studio. A lot of damage was done. We had to put out a little bit of a fire. Shane had to go out with the fire extinguisher. Steve got really, really mad and he beat that son of a bitch to a pulp. So we can't even come on Bezos for compo now, but we know it was you, Jeff. But you're listening to the Red Book Show on Wexford New People's Movement Radio.
Okay, but before I was so rudely interrupted by Jeff Bezos,
we were talking about Sally Rooney's
talking about
Normal People.
And I was talking about how the book is both a great book and also a very popular book. And it's sort of rare when you see those things. And I'd just like to say a couple of things about Sally Rooney's writing. It's very breezy and intelligent and visually dense in every scene and philosophically deep. Her subject matter ranges from how and when labels come off empty beer bottles, which is, by the way, something I've never really thought about before, to how having status is something destructive and destabilizing. And from my own life and experience, I can tell you that's definitely true.
I'd agree with you, Steve. Yeah. Rooney brings philosophy, deep philosophy, in disguised as conversation here. She never stops to lecture the reader. She just lets the ideas emerge naturally. This is in my opinion, a deeply political and philosophical book disguised as romance. I would even go as far, and I know you won't agree with this, Steve, but I would even go as far as to call it a Marxist text. Rooney classifies herself in many interviews as a Trinity Marxist, which is still very much an oxymoron in Ireland today, even though I know many Marxists from Trinity. But then she lampoons these people in the novel as well. She's a very interesting figure, and how she manages to weave all of this into what is basically a romance plot is superb.
Yeah, it's very remarkable. And she's able, speaking of the romance side of it, she's very able to write very openly and non-exploitively about sex and sexual situations. She brings human frailty and human emotions into descriptions of those situations. Just very naturally, very, very easily.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And what impressed me wasn't the explicitness, but how ordinary it felt.
Yeah.
She handled extreme subjects, and they are extreme subjects like sadomasochism and swinging, in a very real world way. Not eroticizing them.
No.
It actually reminded me of how Welbeck did it. I know this is the second time we brought him up. You might think we're obsessed with him, but we're not. But there is deep connections, I think, between Sally Rooney and Michelle Welbeck.
Yeah, there's definitely connections, and I understand that sort of what you were saying, that sort of not detached, but sort of like a reporter would describe what's happening. You know, she's very good with that. another thing she does is she has very adept use of flashbacks to show what's happening inside the minds of Marianne and Connell. Every time there's a new situation or a new scene unfolding where it's important that they have some memory about what previously happened related to this, she's very good at weaving that in.
That's fascinating again, that there's another connection to a book we've discussed recently, trout fishing in America. Bradigan, one of the things we said was that memory wasn't chronological, and he's very good at capturing that, and one memory can flash back to something else, and then
and Vonnegut was like that too.
Yeah.
To the point his characters actually skipped through time, literally skipped through time.
Yeah.
But I think that most of us mentally skip through time as we remember stories in our past.
I think so.
Yeah. And I like how she designed this novel. I call it sort of scaffolding. For example, early on, I hope I don't spoil anything, but Connell fails Marianne in a big way. And Rooney could have had Marianne herself give Connell the business about what he did. But instead, she very naturally has Connell's mother, Lorraine, do that instead. And it was a brilliant stroke in sort of constructing the story.
I think so. I think Lorraine was set up to be the moral compass, but also the encompassing figure of the practical failures of the class system, and there is a lot of subtle talk about the class system here, because a lot of Irish people, Steve, as you said to me, like a lot of American people, don't believe a class system exists in their country, and it's something only the Brits have. But believe me, it does.
Yeah, it does exist.
Marianne's family and some of her friends in Trinity are presented as the elite, whereas Lorraine is a single mother. She was pregnant at 17 from a troubled working class family. One of her brothers was in prison, who is presented as being more wise, more liberal, and more liked than any of the others.
I agree with that.
As I said, Steve, this is a Marxist novel.
Oh, I don't know about that. You may be stretching the point, but I do agree with what you just said about Lorraine. I really like how she gets into sort of some issues like secrecy versus mere privacy. And in secondary school, everybody's dealing with that because everybody's gossiping all the time, and you want to have like a private space in your life, and you want to keep things secret from other people. And we all think that secrets are bad, right? But privacy is good. But where is actually the dividing line between those two things? And we live in an age, Wally, where technology is basically throwing us back to like this world-class secondary school because everybody gossips about one another.
Oh, yeah.
And things are just done in many ways, like politics is done in a very immature level. I mean, maybe high school was actually more mature than some of the way our politics
social media has recreated secondary school. We're all trying to conform. We're all trying to fit in now, just like they were. We're trying to fit in online, faking our lives, and sometimes suppressing our own beliefs in order to fit in.
And there's a whole like urge to push into people's private spaces,
Yeah.
So another thing I really appreciated on this was about, and I'm kind of getting into deep thought here myself, but St. Augustine wrote about apologies and how they restore relationships that were broken. And he very memorably, at least in my mind, said that if you refuse an apology or you refuse to make an apology, you're refusing a friendship. And I saw over the whole life of this relationship, there was breaks in it. And then there was eventually like an apology or something, and people, they came back together again, and sort of and the life of the relationship went on further.
That's fascinating. Yeah, it's a fascinating way to look at it.
Yeah. So there's many other things I saw in the book. I'm not going to hopefully belabor this, but she writes about things like money, for example. At one point, she just says, time is more real. Time consists of physics. Money is just a social construct. That's a very astute observation on economics, just putting right into the story. So anyway, I really did appreciate this book tremendously.
Yeah. It has many levels. It has many levels, I think, Steve. I like, and I know you had a point on it, that on student life, she said, we're coming to college every day to have sharp debates about books they had not read.
Yeah, they didn't do their assignment.
I don't think that's just university.
No,
it's everything now. and it goes back to our social media point. Maybe we're all performing intelligence for each other now.
Yeah.
Even using AI to help us.
And the point is not to have a dialogue, but to have an argument.
Oh yeah, well we
Yeah.
don't want to actually, but it's not a real argument either. We
No,
don't
it's
we don't
not.
want to debate anymore. We want to win, and
Yeah.
we want to look smarter than the person we're in dialogue with
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
And how many people use AI now to write a social media post or an email or even a text message? Imagine using AI to write a text message to a loved one,
Yeah.
and how many people read to learn now, or for the genuine love of it, or even accept that they do not know everything that they need to know.
Yeah.
Like, and that is something
That's
that is something that we're losing rapidly. I think we're lucky. I think we both still know that we're well, I certainly believe I'm a bit of an idiot and I don't know everything.
yeah.
Um,
I know that for sure. I know you don't know everything. Now. I know that I don't know everything. Yeah.
Another point that you had made was the the same. Connell says the same imagination he uses as a reader is necessary to understand real people
Yeah.
and also to be intimate with them. And I really think, and there's studies have been done for this, reading trains empathy.
Yes, it does.
Reading fiction particularly,
Yeah.
more so than factual. And it's been carried. Those studies have been carried out over the last 20 years on three different continents, and they've all given us the same results,
Look,
which is fascinating.
look. Not to digress too badly, but look at like kids, like let's say 10, 11, 12-year-old kids following a story like Christmas Carol. That's definitely teaching about empathy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, there's something about this book. It's set in 2011. There was a
Yeah.
period. I know you weren't here in 2011, but I'm sure you saw similar things.
I was in
States.
the world in 2011. Yes.
It was a period of political disruption and protests here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Economic protests.
Like the
we were getting into
Yeah.
the household charge tax
That's right.
protests. I remember seeing an incredible scene which opened a lot of people's eyes was when Garda on horseback attacked students outside Leinster House. That's something that we
had not seen anything like that
we
before.
hadn't seen anything since the early 1980s and the hunger strike protests.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But Rooney wrote it after this. But she was a student in Dublin during this period, and she likely saw the eventual futility of these protests.
I think that was broadly hinted at there.
And their betrayal by the political class.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I, like Rooney, Steve, saw this. I was one of those protesters. And at that time, I believed that there was going to be huge political change. There was going to be some sort of a peaceful social uprising, but it was all in vain. It was a pantomime used to elevate new politicians, but change nothing in the system. And we were living through incredible times. I mean, the IMF had arrived in Ireland, and we couldn't make fun of England for letting that happen a generation before anymore. The banks were being bailed out while people were literally killing themselves because of their finances were wiped out, their careers were wiped out. And
the bailouts were such a massively demoralizing.
We felt betrayed, and I, like
Yes.
Marianne, concluded that mass change through such means was impossible. And Marianne, in the book, I believe you have a quote there.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this earlier, Wally, about how whether this book was of a time in the past or whether it was still about now. And she wrote, Rooney wrote that Marianne would live and die in a world of extreme violence against the innocent, and at most she could help only a few people. That sounds exactly like 2026. So this book is definitely still very
that's
relevant.
something that really connected with me, because I think I came to those conclusions, and I think many people that lived through that period and that were political active at that period came to those conclusions and turned their backs on all of that kind of thing.
There's something that this book really does remarkably well, which is a lot of times, especially people who are kind of smart and intelligent. They read a lot of books and everything like that. They know about the world. They know about history. They know about even economics. They know about all these different things. But sort of the one area that they don't know about is like at the center is who they are. And both these characters have this massive amount of self-doubt growing out of their childhoods or growing out of particular situations that happen to them. And I Marianne tells Connell, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I can't be like normal people. Well, there's the title of the book, right?
Well,
but she reports that she spent much of her childhood and adolescence planning elaborate schemes to remove herself from family conflict. And the number one scheme was to stay completely silent. Well, this basically, that hit home with me a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think everyone has taught the first part at one point, which is why maybe the whole thing about normal people is so, it connects so well with people, particularly young people. We strive to be something we cannot. Whether or not we're normal or anything else matters and exists ultimately only inside our own heads. Yeah. Marianne believes her mother is the high mark of normality, but spoiler alert, it's later revealed to us that the people in the town believe her to be a bit odd, and not very likable at all.
So then the question is, what is normal exactly?
Well, it doesn't exist, and we spend our whole lives learning that.
Yeah.
Most people spend years editing themselves so others will accept them.
Yeah. Very true.
That is a very sad thing. But Steve, going back to when this book, I know the book was written in 2018, but when it is set, there is a subgenre, and we're talking about subgenres, but there is a subgenre of Irish fiction now, which was crash fiction, I suppose, or the Great Recession fiction.
Yeah.
I suppose it's summed up best by The Spinning Heart by Donald Ryan.
Yeah.
Which will be the
poster
child for that. But I think Normal People is also an example of that. It deals very much with the social effects of the 2008 Great Recession, because one of the things that's constantly told to us during the narrative is that these Trinity students don't believe they'll ever get any work. Some of them don't care because they have very wealthy families, but the others believe this is kind of just an act we're putting in. There's not going to be any work at the end of this. There's not going to be any life.
I remember that same sort of, what's the word I'm looking for exactly? Same sort of despair or uncertainty and cynicism that existed over there in America, like at the university I was teaching at. It was just a feeling that all of a sudden they were walking on solid ground, and all of a sudden people are just walking on air, and the future doesn't seem to be real anymore.
Well, we've lived through incredible times.
We have, and we're gonna live through some more incredible times.
Within a decade, we had the Great Recession, and then we had COVID and the lockdowns. And I don't know if we've had a good lockdown. No, I know we've had a lot of books about the lockdown, but I don't know if we've actually had novels that have dealt with the huge social impact of the lockdowns yet.
Yeah,
but I'm sure they're coming. You had a point to make about...
this is sort of like a concluding point. Is there anything else you wanted to say at all?
Well, I will on this, because I've already read over your shoulder.
Yeah. Well, I don't care what anyone else says. Not that I've heard a lot of people commenting, but this book has endured the test of time in my mind. It's endured our recent terrible history. So I give it 5, maybe 6 stars if I'm awarding stars.
Good. Well, it will endure.
Yeah.
I think the ideas are universal. Class will always exist here and everywhere else.
Yeah, it always will.
Ironically, that's the takeaway from what is a good Marxist novel. The enduring reason that communism itself will fail, not because of the theory not being sound or the theorists that came up with the theory, but because of us, the human condition.
Yeah, well, I hope we don't suddenly walk off the page here, but you've really opened up a door of in my mind. The thing is, think about communism. My take on communism and Marx from deep study is that Marx was very good at critiquing capitalism. In fact, his critique is still very, very strong, but there's not really a solution that he proposes that's practical, and that's part of the overall problem. And so when we're reading in this book, students just are basically, maybe they're Marxists at Trinity, but they don't have any practical idea of how to move toward a future, a Marxist future, if you will, which doesn't seem to really exist as possible. Anyway, but that gets off to another subject. Do you want to talk about Das Kapital now? we could do that.
Steve.
Yeah.
I know you university guys are all secretly Marxists. Don't be telling me that. But I do think community is the new communism.
Well, you may have something there, because we definitely got to pull together.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these arguments of the past, like communism for capitalism, so on, they're like 20th century things, because what we're looking at today are the humans going to survive against the learning technologies, the machine technology, the robots, and the billionaires. So I think humans of the world unite. That's my slogan.
You're listening to the Red Book Show on Wexford New People's Movement Radio. Text us in at wnpmr.com. Steve Unicky wants you to seize the means of production and eat the rich. Now we're going to have a bit of music.
I'm not commenting on that. Okay.
This is Deep Within by Ronan Furlong. Comrade.